Hey, what is up, Frag fam? Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. So today I am bringing you guys my top 10 niche list of fragrances for the fall of 2021. So these are the fragrances that, at least as of right now, I plan on wearing throughout the fall season the most. So if you guys want to find out which fragrances I've picked and why I put them here in this list, then please stick around. But first, let's roll that intro. Alright guys, welcome back from the intro, and like I already said, this is going to be my top 10 niche list of fragrances for the fall time here in 2021. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below, like while you're watching this video or at the end, if you guys enjoyed this overall. Let me know if you want to see the designer version of this list, and I will put that one out as well. But without holding off any longer, let's jump into the list of fragrances at the number 10 spot. Okay, so starting the video off here at the number 10 spot, and this is not a rank list, by the way, just a completely random order, but kicking the video off, we were talking about this one from the house of Atelier Dior's, and this is Iris Fauve. You know, this one doesn't really get that much talk, at least from what I've seen from the house. A lot of people lean towards Lune Feline, which I do own. It's a great fragrance, and then some of their blue bottle fragrances as well. This one I think is really underrated. I think it's just as good. I actually, at least as of right now, I do prefer this to Lune Feline, which, like I said, that is their most popular fragrance. This is an amazing iris bomb, hence the name Iris Fauve, and it's more of that kind of waxy style of iris in here. It's not really fresh, soapy, or powdery, anything like that. Very waxy. You do get some spiciness in here from cinnamon. There is a little bit of a freshness from some bergamot, and then actually a little bit of kind of this fresh woody vibe from some vetiver as well. But it's really all about the spices, that cinnamon, the iris, and then there's actually a very dominant note of myrrh in here, which myrrh, it's a resin, kind of comes across sometimes like a little bit rooty, balsamic like. That's kind of the vibe you get here in a way. To me, it's more on that like balsamic side though. Very sweet though overall. And again, this amazing kind of waxy iris, and then that spiciness from the cinnamon. This is an absolutely amazing fragrance, a really good iris one. It's probably one of the darker iris fragrances that I've tried. So if you're into stuff kind of like the Dior own line with that waxy iris and more on that kind of sweet dark side, you would probably really enjoy this one a lot. So again, the first fragrance that we're talking about here in this video from the house of Atelier Dior's is this one right here called Iris Fauve. Okay, so the next fragrance we're going to be talking about is one that I actually, when I first tried it or before I tried it, I didn't really think I would enjoy it. This is known for a heavy floral component within it, and I'm not a huge fan of most florals. Sometimes I do enjoy it, but it's kind of hit or miss for me. So based on that, initially, like I said, I didn't really think I would enjoy this one, when it's actually one of my favorite fragrances from this house. The way they've done the florals here, it's absolutely amazing. Does not lean feminine to my nose, perfectly unisex fragrance. This one is coming from the house of BDK Parfums, and this is Wood Jasmine. So Wood Jasmine, you would think there'd be jasmine in here, which is the most dominant note. There is a little bit of kind of this woody component from some cypriol oil and then Peru balsam as well, but it's not overly like woody or in your face, which is why I don't think this is an overly masculine fragrance. I think, again, it's perfectly unisex. The jasmine here is honestly a pretty kind of sweet and jammy kind of jasmine. It's not really fresh or powdery or soapy like it can come across sometimes. You get a very prominent plum note in here as well, which BDK Parfums seems to love using plum in their fragrances, and they do a really good job with it here. Very sweet, juicy, very fruity. You do get some labdanum in here as well, bringing a nice kind of like sweet, very resinous, powdery nature to this, which with that sweet plum note that I was talking about, this is just a very kind of dense and silky smooth fragrance that is very sugary. So if you like sweet fragrances, you'll like this one. If you don't like sweet fragrances, you probably won't, but I think it's just a beautiful, again, sweet, lightly woody, kind of jammy floral fragrance with some spicy components and some of those kind of resinous components as well. So definitely check this one out. If anything that I said about it kind of sounded intriguing to you, I think it's a very underrated fragrance, and like I said, one of my favorites from the house of BDK Parfums. Okay, so the next fragrance up is a really interesting one, kind of blending some freshness with some denser components as well, which is why I think it would fit perfectly here into the fall list. So we are talking about this one from the house of Mancera, and this is Sararian Wind, which, yeah, this stuff smells amazing. A kind of newer pickup of mine. I've had it for a couple of months now, worn it a few times, really unique stuff. There's nothing that I can think of that I've tried before that smells like this fragrance. And as far as what it's about, get a lot of leather, a lot of spices, a lot of bergamot, and then some green notes and some florals as well. So the leather here, I'd say leather, but it's really more of like a suede note. It's not heavy, it's not animalic or dirty or anything like that. It's very clean, almost new car-like in a way. You do get some spices here, like I said, and they're more warm spices to my nose, kind of like nutmeg and maybe a little bit of cinnamon, those kind of spices. There is bergamot, like I said, so it does bring a little bit of this freshness. There's almost a creamy nature in here as well from some pink pepper. And then, like I said, there's this green side to it coming from cypress tree. It's kind of coniferous and woody, but there's also this kind of mature masculinity to this coming from some aromatic notes like lavender. And there's actually a prominent lily of the valley note in this fragrance as well, kind of green, sweet, and floral at the same time. That's kind of what you get from it, and you can pick it up basically from the opening. But it is a pretty complex fragrance. Like I said, you know, you're getting all of these different facets at once from the application. It's a very unique scent, like I already said. I find this stuff quite appealing as well. So if you guys are after something like that, something new from the house of Mancera that really hasn't been talked about much yet, definitely check this one out. Boozy, fruity tobacco. If you like fragrances like that, you need to check out this next one coming from the house of Argos, which we are talking about Triumph of Baccus. This stuff has absolutely been blowing me away ever since I first tried it. It does have some similarities to Mancera's red tobacco, and then Carlisle from Parfums de Marly. Yes, there are similarities, but I think they all are like decently different enough. This one definitely stands out. I've done side-by-sides between this and Carlisle, and those two are quite different. Carlisle is in a much darker, and I would even say a denser direction. This one has a little bit of this freshness because there are some fruity notes in here. You get green apple and then peach as your dominant fruity notes. This does have that tobacco, like I said, as well. You do get that booziness, like I mentioned, which is coming from rum here. It's a sweet boozy note. It's not harsh or off-putting or anything like that. There is vanilla in here as well, and then patchouli. So a little bit green, but also very sweet. It's just a beautiful, well-rounded tobacco fragrance. Like I said, it's fruity, it is very sweet, it's got this booziness to it, making it a little bit mature and mysterious. Got that nice tobacco, which here, again, it's not a smoky tobacco, it's like a cherried tobacco. It's like the dried leaves that are very sweet. So if you like stuff like that, this is honestly perfect for the fall time. You need to check this one out from the house of Argos. I think this is the best iteration of the red tobacco and Carlisle style of DNA. So again, here at the number, I think 7 spot, this was from the house of Argos. This was Triumph of Baccus. Okay, so up next we are going to be talking about a fragrance that was actually on my top 5 fragrance wish list video that I made a few months ago. So this is one that I had been wanting for a long time. I was finally able to get it pretty soon after releasing that video, funnily enough, and I'm really glad I did. This stuff met my expectations absolutely. It's been blowing me away. We are talking about this one from the house of Frederick, and this is Promise, which right now this is the only fragrance I own from the house, although I have tried about 4 at this point. This is my favorite based on the ones that I have tried. And I think this stuff is perfect for the time of year we're getting into right now, the fall time, and probably even the winter time as well. This stuff is very dense and very intense. It lasts like 12 plus hours with just one spray. So you don't need much. This little 50 milliliter bottle right here is plenty. You know, that's all I'll really ever need. Now what the scent is actually like with this one is it features a very realistic and prominent green apple note with some booziness as well. And there's a spicy component to this as well. So the green apple, like I said, is very dominant. It's very realistic. It's crisp. It's almost tart and juicy. You do get a little bit of the spicy nature from rosemary and then pink pepper, which is more of a fresh kind of spiciness, not really like a warm spice here in this fragrance. You do get some Turkish rose in here. It's kind of a fresh rose. Still a little bit jammy and powdery, but not super in your face and like overly feminine smelling. And then you get a lot of cypriol oil in here as well, which is very sharp, almost like boozy-like and piercing, but it has a little bit of this kind of balsamic nature as well. It actually brings a green facet to the fragrance as well, which I just think it makes it even that much more interesting and appealing to my personal taste. So again, it's kind of a fruity, spicy, boozy apple fragrance, a really good one if you guys are interested in something like that. Very unique again. Definitely check out Promise from the house of Frederick Mall. Okay, so the next fragrance we are going to be talking about is probably my top fall fragrance, and by that I mean like I just enjoy this stuff a ton, but I also just find this extremely fitting for the fall time. Whenever I smell this, my mind instantly takes me to the fall time. It's just that style of fragrance, and this was actually in my 4 fragrances for 4 seasons video for the fall time in that list. So we are talking about this one from the house of Parfums de Marly, and this is Hobdon, which this is also my favorite fragrance from the house of Parfums de Marly. Very underrated in my opinion. I get that it's not maybe like as mass appealing as Latin, for example. I can say yes, that is true, but I don't find it challenging really at all. Very unique, and like just to my nose, it's just so nostalgic smelling. This takes me to the fall time, like I said, every single time I smell it. Reason being is this features kind of some woody notes, but also some spicy notes and stuff that just kind of evokes the scenery of fall to me. So you get saffron in here. It's very sweet and cherried, but also spicy. You get some frankincense in here. Then you also get florals in here like rose, which to me, it's almost like, you know, getting out of the summertime into that fall time. That's kind of what that just evokes to my nose. But there's also this woody component, and then there's this caramel and this apple. So to me, this almost smells like eating a caramel apple, walking through the woods. You're getting the smell of the trees, the spices growing around you, but also the flowers. The summertime is winding down. We're getting into that cooler weather. That's exactly where this fragrance takes me when I smell it. And so because of that, I just really enjoy this stuff a lot. But like I said, I also find it extremely appealing. It's not just nostalgic for me, it smells fantastic. So definitely check this one out from the house of Parfums de Marly if you want something that is very transportive, very unique, and just very appealing at the same time. Okay, so moving on to the next fragrance now, we're gonna be talking about a fougere here, and this is actually one of my favorite fougere fragrances in my entire collection, which I have more than 20 fragrances that are fougeres. This is actually my favorite fougere pickup of 2021, and I'm really looking forward to the fall time because I think this is the time of year to wear this particular one, since this actually leans a little bit on that denser side rather than that fresh side. So we are talking about this one from the house of Penhaligons, and this is Sartorial, which this is doing something familiar but extremely unique. There's no other fougeres out there, at least the ones that I've tried, that smell like this. So sure, this is fresh and clean and soapy with a little bit of this green nature. That's what you usually get from a fougere, but what this one's doing differently is this features beeswax and then honey as well. So it's syrupy, it is very sweet. It's got almost this powderiness to it like honey can come across sometimes. There's a little bit of that waxiness, of course, from the beeswax, but there's also kind of this aldehydic nature to this as well. Really hard to describe, you know, it kind of almost has like this aerated laundry smell to it. But again, this one still isn't really fresh. Like I said, it's more on that dense side. It's just a beautiful, unique, but very wearable fougere at the same time. They did something bold and different here, but they really pulled it off. And I do find this stuff extremely appealing. Every time I wear this stuff, I just feel fantastic. Makes me feel very dressed and just put together like a fougere should. But again, this one still kind of has that sweetness to it, which I think adds a little bit of this seductive side to it as well. So if you guys like fougeres, but maybe you want something that is a little bit sweeter or just a little bit more alluring, something different, definitely check out Penhaligons Sartorial. Okay, so we are on to the third to last fragrance now, and this is my absolute favorite patchouli fragrance in my entire collection. This is patchouli to the max. If you guys want something that comes across almost chocolate-like, need to check this one out from the house of Javoy, which we are talking about Psychedelic. Man, this stuff is so good. I wore this once during the summer, and while that might have been a mistake, I really didn't mind. This stuff is just amazing. A perfect patchouli. Like I said, it's in that like chocolatey style, so it is very sweet. It's got this kind of cacao nature to it. There's vanilla in here, which is even making things sweeter and just more silky and smooth, more seductive. You get amber as well. Brings a little bit of a powderiness to it in a way. It's not really an amber fragrance, but it is there kind of in a supportive role. And really what this one's like to me is chocolate cake. That's basically as simple as the description can get, but it is that good. You know, it is very edible smelling, just in your face, just chocolate to the max. If you guys want something like that, you need to check out this one from Javoy, which again, this is called Psychedelic. Okay, so the next fragrance we are going to be talking about is almost like an amalgamation of a citrus aromatic, an aromatic fougere, and then a spicy oriental fragrance. Take all three of those, kind of mash them together. That's basically what you're getting here with this stuff. Extremely put together fragrance, very good if you want to smell dressed up in the fall time. So we are talking about this one from the house of Roger Parfums, and this is Danger Parfum pour Homme. This stuff has been growing on me a lot more recently. I thought it was pretty good when I first got it, but wearing it a few more times, this stuff is creeping farther up as far as my preferences from the house. Very just put together, like I said. If you're gonna be dressed up, going to some kind of fancy formal event, and you wanna smell the part, you need to check this one out. This features lavender, citruses, you get cumin in here, woody notes, and there's also some oak moss. There's actually a lot more notes in here than that, but those are the dominant ones to my nose. So it is aromatic. It actually is surprisingly fresh, but I really would not call this like an overall fresh fragrance profile. Again, it's got some denser notes. The woody notes here added this density to it. You get that cumin in here, which is a very prominent, warm, spicy note here in this fragrance. Here, it is very clean and overall, but still quite dense fragrance at the same time. Again, just sophisticated, put together, gentlemanly. If you're looking for a fall fragrance like that, definitely check this one out from Raja Parfums, which again, this is Danger Parfum Pour Homme. Okay, so we are finally on to the last fragrance now. Now this is similar to a fall staple for many people, and the fall staple I'm talking about is on the designer side. So this is the niche list, of course. This is my favorite kind of version of that DNA. It's just been a little bit more smoothened out, just more mature, I would say. A fantastic fragrance from the house, one of their most popular, and for good reason. So we are talking about this fragrance from the house of UNIAO, and this is Rehab, which the fragrance that I was talking about that it is similar to on the designer side is Spice Bomb, which if you look at the note breakdown, it really doesn't make any sense. There's no similarities from the note breakdown to Spice Bomb, but this really does have that kind of DNA in it. It is quite spicy. I think in this case, it is coming from the cedar wood, because if you're using a natural cedar note, it does come across quite dry and peppery, so it does have that spiciness to it, but also that woody component as well, which this fragrance does have. This one actually has sandalwood as well, which is very creamy in this case. You get some lavender in here. It's more of like a creamy kind of style of lavender. Sure, it's a little bit aromatic, but it doesn't come across like it does traditionally in maybe like a fougere style of fragrance. There is a little bit of freshness as well, coming from some bergamot, but overall, again, this is like a dry, creamy, sweet, kind of spicy fragrance, similar to Spice Bomb, but in my opinion, this again is the best kind of style of that DNA. It's just been smoothened out. It's less screechy and a little bit more mature. So if you guys like that fragrance and you want something that's maybe just even better, or maybe you haven't tried that fragrance, but you want something that is just sweet, creamy, and spicy, definitely check this one out. Again, from the house of UNIAO, which this was Rehab. Well, there you guys go. That was my top 10 fall niche list of fragrances for 2021. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you plan on reaching for any of these, if you plan on trying any of these if you have not been able to yet, and also maybe what fragrances that you currently own that you plan on wearing throughout the fall time. I would love to hear all of that down below. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and then that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. Additionally, if you want to write a comment, maybe just letting me know your thoughts, as well as some new video ideas or topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you've not already, if you could hit the subscribe button and then the bell notification, that would be amazing. That way you stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one, stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.